We are here in Derby, and we're going to talk to Joanna and Noah, a couple who recently relocated from New York City to rural Vermont.
We really like it here. I mean, it's totally different. We went from the very southern tip of Manhattan to basically Canada. My friends were like, "Where are you going?"
Noah has family here, so they had been thinking about the move for about a decade.
It was the family first that was drawing us here, financial, and then COVID, just because being on lockdown in 695 square feet gives you a lot of time to think about priorities.
And their new apartment in Derby is about twice the size of their Manhattan pad for a third of the cost.
He's such a city cat. As soon as he hits the hot pavement, he's just like, "Oh, this is the best thing ever."
Now, sometimes in New York City, people will say, "Oh, I want to move to Vermont. It's so like rustic," and we knew we weren't going to come up here and open an organic farm, and so we were realistic about what our lives are going to look like.
It's Menace. The Menace.
The Menace.
Technically, he doesn't have a name. He's just known as the Menace.
We got married in 2004. It's strange because I've been in New York since I was 24. The first major event I was there that was, I would say, redefined New York in some ways was 9/11. Then you had the housing crisis, and then of course you had COVID. It has redefined life in the city. And my school shut down in one day. They said we're going to be completely remote learning until the fall.
Fraction eating monster catastrophe! Ah!
My desk space was a little area behind my TV and my radiator in my apartment. I had a place behind here, so I was teaching behind a TV. When I had to take a Zoom call with my kids, my third graders, he would go into the bedroom and literally balance his laptop on the cat tree. He was already working from home, so his kind of daily routine stayed the same. Mine was completely upended. The kitchen in New York was probably from here to here. So like all of that would not have existed in our apartment. And then the living room was probably maybe this big. The silence was what was the strangest thing in the city, a city that is always loud, always something going on. The streets were empty, the stores were closed. One of my students, her mom was a first responder, and she sent me this email that was really incredible, what it was like working in a COVID ward. I can feel myself getting upset now. I mean, it was so upsetting to read about her experiences. That sort of, for Noah and I, we were like, that's it. I mean, it wasn't that we were afraid, and that's why we left the city. I know a lot of people did that. We don't have kids. Some people left for that reason. Some people had summer homes. We did not, but that they just decided they were going to go there and stay there because they had those resources. It really brought to light the inequality in New York, the income inequality. There's also a great disparity about, Noah and I weren't leaving the city and plunking down almost $1 million in cash on a house. When you live in New York, it's a constant, I always called it like a tuning fork. You're always like, So when we got here, the pace of life was just sort of, I don't want to use the word slower, it's just more relaxed. So I felt immediately, Noah and I were talking about it, these layers of stress coming off. And it's just like, everybody's so nice. The day we moved in, we were invited to the Bonfire. They have these little community bonfires. The first night we were here, somebody was knocking at the door, and Noah said, "Somebody's at the door." kind of like, who would be knocking at our door? Coming from New York, we found it really funny. But it's something that makes this place charming. Hi! Everybody came out, we made potatoes and corn.
Oh, the Provo Farm. Oh, Pinky's Farm. Yeah, Pinky's Farm. So my grandfather bought it, and then my dad bought it from him. This barn here, I would say 1810, 1814. So in order to save this whole complex, we were like, we need revenue. And our main thing was to save the barn. So we needed to get revenue with the house. Mostly people that are coming from outside the area, looking for a place to stay, country, but don't have a lot to do with it. I mean, you don't have to mow the lawn, you don't You don't have to do all the things, you know? I mean, this is all taken care of for you, but you get to enjoy being here.
And I texted my friend, I was like, no joke, I am actually chasing a sheep. It's really fun because they kind of get the whole Vermont-y thing that New Yorkers, or that is always advertised, right? The barn, the sheep, the fire pit, the fields, but unless you really want to, you don't have to do anything. You can just come out and be like, ah, Vermont.
You can read this week's cover story to find out about more people who recently moved to Vermont due to the coronavirus. And welcome everybody. We're happy that you are stuck here with us because it's a pretty great place to be stuck right now. Take care, everyone.
Earlier this morning, the clouds were like, it was all gray clouds and they were like zipping across the sky and you could hear the firing range. And I was like, this is very like backcountry Gothic.
You're in Vermont. That's
I
how
know.
it goes in Vermont.